patterns I've been working on. I'm in the pattern development process for Material Girls. Every single issue has a free knitting, crochet, and sewing pattern in it, so lots of work. This time I'm doing a rosette pattern in each medium, so knitting, crochet, sewing, how to make your own rosette, and I'll also have a little tutorial slash inspo about the ways that I've like just glued rosettes together with cute buttons and ribbons, so I'm really excited about that. I think it'll be a fun little layout. So starting with sewing, sewn rosette. So it's all fabric scraps. You serge or zigzag stitch all the edges. I have a serger, so I used that and I really like how that makes the edges look, but I think a zigzag stitch right on the edge could do something similar. This is all one big piece that I gathered and then kind of rolled around itself and hand sewed together. Hand sewed on these little pieces hanging down below to make the rosette ribbons. Again, they're just little strips of fabric that have been serged on either end. And then on the back, I cut out a little circle to kind of cover up all the messy hand sewing that's underneath this. Obviously you're seeing like all the different layers of ribbon being rolled around itself and then these things hanging off. So this just creates like a nice little backing, and I added a little flap that I put a pin underneath so that I have something to, you know, attach it to and hang it from. This was really fun to develop. I had a few different kind of designs going, but this is what the final one is going to look like. I'm going to make a few more so that just for the pictures on the page I want to include lots of different rosettes. The color scheme is pink and green if you were wondering. So yeah, a few more pink and green scrap rosettes are on the way, but they're all going to be in this shape. And I think for some of them as well, instead of inserting a safety pin like this, I might put a magnet inside of it. And I think what I would do is place the magnet down, put a piece of fabric over it, and then sew around the whole piece of fabric so that the magnet's kind of like encased underneath it. I want to make some that kind of show how to do that as well, because there are some clothes that I wear that I don't necessarily want to pin in, and I feel like that's another good option is magnet. So number one, sewn rosette. I'm planning for my green shirt, but how cute is that? I haven't worn it out on an outfit yet, but this makes me very excited. It's just like nice and oversized. Obviously you can make your scraps bigger or smaller if you want it to be bigger or smaller, but I like a loud accessory. I did put it on a bag and went to a picnic recently. That was very cute. So many things you can do with rosettes. So I was very excited about that. As soon as I finished this one, I knew it was gonna be the final. I took it out to my plans that evening. Next up, crochet. So we have a pink one here. And again, this is like the final one. Now that I know that it's final, I'm going to recreate it in some more pink and green yarns for the spread. But look at how sweet that is. My goal with the different rosettes was obviously to have like a basic rosette shape, but not to have them all be exactly the same in each of the mediums. So yeah, I wanted there to be like something fun and unique in each medium, so everyone wants to make, you know, rosettes all over the place. So for this one, it's a pretty simple rose, just a lot of double crochets in some spaces to make the kind of petal shape throughout, so very beginner friendly. And then I just chained off the back of it all of these different pieces, so you can see like that. They just hang like this because I'm holding it this way, but yeah, I just chained directly off the back by inserting my crochet hook in there, and I did, I think, 7 chains off of it. I feel like a rosette is classically like 3, but I feel like when it's little pieces like this, I thought it could be cool to just have a bunch hanging down there. The bright pink with the bright green. See, I love this too. So cute. A few more coming this way. I haven't worn this one out yet. I actually haven't added a safety pin to it yet because I need to go buy some safety pins. I realized, like, for being a sewist, I have very few laying around, and I'm not going to do anything to really attach it. I'm just going to put it through the crochet and then through whatever I'm pinning it to. But I think that is so cute. The one that I haven't quite finalized yet is the knit version. So I had this idea to use this ruffle technique that I've used on a few patterns. So there's the ruffled scrunchie, the top of the Polly Pocket bag has a little ruffle on it. And I use kind of the same ruffle method for all of those. It involves knitting front and back just so you like rapidly increase your stitches and it all kind of scrunches up. So I was just working on this green one and I knit back and forth a few just straight rows and then did my ruffling method. But I think because of the yarn that I'm using, it's just too thick and it's kind of curling in on itself, but it's not really ruffling up the way that I wanted it to. I kind of wanted it to just like look like a pile of ruffles. So we're having to pivot because I wanted the ruffle vibe to work. I think it might look different if I did it in a thinner yarn, but part of what I want to do with these patterns is have them be like something you can grab any yarn to do, because it's not something that needs to be sized perfectly. It's just not important that you use a certain hook size, a certain needle size, whatever. And if I'm seeing that you use a thicker yarn and the ruffle doesn't actually show up, I don't want to go with that, you know? So I really like this green yarn, so I'm going to scrap it, start again, and I think what I might try to do is more of like a sewing method where I knit straight for a few rows and then leave live stitches on the needle and pull my yarn through them. I recently saw a video of this technique where you can like push your needle through all of your live stitches and then basically gather the knitting up onto a piece of thread as roughly as you want it to be, and then I'm thinking I could wrap it around itself and kind of sew it in place. That works. It's probably an even easier way to get a ruffle. It will be like a pretty big wide ruffle, but it would be easier than doubling your stitches. Like I currently have like 140 stitches or something. Perhaps an easier way to get a somewhat ruffled effect, but you will have to wait and see. New day, time for some more rosettes. First, an update on how the knit one ended up. So I did end up just knitting a few rows and leaving everything on the needle and cutting a long piece of thread to put through all the live stitches on the needle. And it gathered up kind of into this little swirl quite nicely, and I did some eye cords for the bottom. These ones are quite shorter than the others that I made just because I want all of them to be slightly different, you know, like they're different patterns, different ways to make rosettes. Obviously you could make them longer if you want to, but I just did 2 little ones on there. So that is the update on the knit version. I'm gonna make some more sewn versions. So I have this guy and she needs some sisters. So I have some more pinky fabrics here. This is a little pink and white like check I'm gonna make one out of, and then I have this. It's like a fun pattern with some pinks and red kind of stars on it. And I think all of that will look quite cute together. Okay, so in order to do this, I'm going to, for the first time in a long time, do this the right way and actually iron this piece of fabric because it's just a little scrap that has been folded for a long time. And I want my rosette to be beautiful. So I'm breaking out the iron. I bought my own iron. This is very exciting because I feel like having an iron and an ironing board is one of those things that makes something kind of like a complete sewing studio. Like I can really do everything I need to do here. We've lived in such small flats before this that we just had like a steamer, which I think is such a scam. Everyone's like, oh, steamers are good for small spaces. They never actually got any wrinkles out of anything. I don't know if I was using it wrong, but we hated our steamers. Now we have room for an ironing table. I have it up here, and an iron, which is great for my sewing and also just like general house use. I don't know, it makes me feel like a person. Okay, I put a little water in. Okay, the iron heats up really fast. Wow, that is so nice. Who would have thought? Lately I've been obsessed with sewing like the right way. I used to take a lot of shortcuts, and I'm gonna regret saying this because I'm sure I'll be advocating for them again in the future, but getting wrinkles out of your clothes is better than just like not getting wrinkles out of your clothes. Look how easy that was. My other piece of fabric as well. Okay, I just cut out my pieces, so the pattern comes out imminently, but it's super simple. It's just a couple strips of fabric. First one needs to be like 100 centimeters long, and I didn't have quite enough for this fabric, so I cut 2 50-centimeter pieces, and I'm just going to sew them together to make the 100-centimeter one. I have 3 pieces for the tails of my ribbon rosette, and then I'm about to show you a shortcut for making a little circle piece on the back as well, even though I know I just said I'm done with the shortcuts. So one of the things you need to make this is to cut out a circle piece, and you use it on the back to just cover up all of the like messy hand sewing that's been done and to attach the pin to. You hand sew this on. I just really don't think it's important to be like a perfect circle. So instead of like measuring out a circle and like finding a protractor, whatever you would do with that, I don't have one. I just cut out a square that is the measurement of the diameter of the circle. So for this pattern, I say you need like an 8.5 centimeter diameter. So these are all 8.5 centimeter sides. And then I just kind of go and like cut the corners off. It's not perfect, but we're meant to be scrappy anyway, right? Like this is the point of DIY clothing. That'll do the trick, right? On the back? Okay, I cut all the same pieces with my other fabric, and the first thing to do is to serge every edge of this. Edges serged on everything, and I also just did a gathering line down each of the long pieces to ruffle up the rosette part. I usually do my gathering on long pieces like this into sections just because I find if I do one long line of thread, it just takes forever to sit here and like gather the ruffles in any sort of even way. So I did these each half and half, and I think that makes it go a lot faster. Gathered to about half of their original length, and you can see they kind of start having a natural little swirl to them. So I'm just going to kind of start folding this in on itself. Not really a nice way to do this, but the point is for it to look a little bit messy anyway. Okay, those are pretty cute. Okay, it's messy, but stay with it. Once you add the other stuff, you'll see the vision. So now I just need to hand sew all of this together. I have a little hand sewing needle going. Again, there's no like good way to do this. It is gonna be quite messy, but that's why we cover it up at the end. Backside reveal. So I just added the ribbons on, which are looking very cute. Wait, actually, front side reveal first. that is what it's gonna look like. Ah, so cute. Okay, anyway, back to the matter at hand. So the back side, I just attached the 3 ribbons. This is what it's looking like underneath. Literally not good, but it is all sewn together, I promise. I still have some thread left, so I'm not going to cut it and tie it yet. I'm just gonna keep going with my little fabric piece here. Look at that, perfectly covering it up. Final reveal, they're really cute, spoiler alert. Okay, here's my first little pink one. Very rosy, like the way that ended up folding. And I really like this one. I see like everything is gonna be folded in a slightly different way, but it's just like patchy and fun. And things all here, we have such a cute little family. I'm obsessed. Honestly, like that is cute. Why would I put them all together on a shirt? We're getting there. The magazine goes to print soon, and obviously I have the pattern all like finished and written, but layout always comes last, so wish me luck with the picture side of things. The end of August, and I've actually had a few pretty busy weeks that I haven't vlogged a ton with because my cousin has been in town. So very fun to see her and have some family time. We get to do kind of lots of fun things around London that we wouldn't normally do when people come to town. Like we went on a tour of Buckingham Palace, which like I'm not doing on a Tuesday, but is cool to get to do when, you know, someone's here who's excited about that. Went to tea, we went to lots of good restaurants. And also over the bank holiday, we took a little long weekend trip to Dublin. So it was me, Grace, and my cousin. I'd never been to Dublin before, so I was really excited. And I was especially excited when we started looking at museums to go to. And this is what we're gonna chat about. We went to the Irish Museum of Modern Art, and they had an exhibition about the Gee's Bend quilts up right now. I feel like there are some kind of like bucket listy quilt sightings that the craft community talks about, one of them being the AIDS Memorial quilt. I've never seen the US one, but I saw the UK one at the Tate Modern a few months ago, which was super special, super moving. And I feel like the Gee's Bend quilts are on there as well. So I've now seen 2 of my bucket list quilt sightings. I have to think of like what else would be on there. But anyway, if you don't know what these quilts are, basically there's this area in Alabama. There's a really rich quilting history, and there are a lot of women there who have passed down this style of quilting through generations, often using like old scraps of clothing, have grown such a distinct style and become quite famous. They're shown all over the world now. A lot of quilts have very like perfect shapes. It's a lot of like triangles and squares and stars and things like that are cut to all be very uniform. And what is so unique about these quilts is that a lot of them are made by hand and kind of patterned from the center as you go, like where you start from the center and you just kind of keep building pieces around it. And that's what a lot of these quilts are made with. Beautiful textures and colors in these quilts and amazing shapes. And I was so inspired because I hadn't really seen quilts like that before. They really are like art pieces. I was looking at them and I was like, it's so interesting. Some of the choices that people made, the places in which they are like very clean lines and like really made to perfection, and then places where things are slightly wonky or there's kind of like a little sliver of fabric that is introduced somewhere that you maybe wouldn't expect one. It feels so artistic and expressive. It was so cool to see those and very inspiring, because I think especially when it comes to quilting, one of the reasons I've been daunted is because I feel like you have to be so precise and so exact. To see these quilts, I feel like they were so much more expressive than a lot of the like exact quilts that I've seen. There's a beautiful documentary that was playing along with the exhibition. It was just like 15 minutes long, and it interviewed some of the women who have been making quilts recently. They talked about how proud they were to have created things that, you know, people thought were beautiful and found joy in and wanted to see. They talked about learning how to quilt from their mothers. They talked about what kind of materials they use. There were people who use machines, and there were also people who were like, fuck a machine, I do it all by hand. And you saw them like sitting on their couch with big boards and like sewing by hand all these quilts together, which is another thing that I loved about them. You could really see like the human touch in a lot of the quilts with the top stitching. You know, the stitches not being exactly the same length because they were made by a person, which I love to see like someone's hand in craft. Gee's Bend is a small isolated farming community, and there's also a legacy of slavery there. There's one pattern of quilts that they called sweep, references that agricultural heritage and like the tools that are used to work the land. These quilts have become really significant historical documents for this community since this method has been passed down through generations. I mean, many people in the area do have connections to working with land, referencing histories of slavery and fighting for civil rights. These quilts in particular have become really important in the African-American civil rights movement. So it was amazing to get to see them in Ireland. Like, I did not expect that when I was just looking around the website to see what they had on. Definitely a bucket list item. I got a puzzle. I actually think it's probably on that shelf back there, but I carried a puzzle home from Ireland that has a bunch of different quilts on it. So can't see them anymore, but I can sit and do my little craft puzzle, and I got lots of pictures, of course.
It just was a joy to see. It just like something just burst over, because I never thought that quilt would be in the art world. People would think that was beautiful. It's something we've done could be shown all over the world and people get joy out of it. Oh God, I just love this. You can look at a quilt, it can give you a feeling of something. You know, it gives you love. You can see love, you can see peace, you can see joy in different quilts.
My read of the week this week was Needlework from Domestic Oppression to Artistic Expression, great title, by Tilly Du Buisson. I got this at a little bookstore on Broadway Market and had a really cute experience picking it up. So I found the little craft politics section, which is so cute that they did have one. There's a bunch of good stuff in there. I was looking at this zine and a girl came up to me and she was like, you have to get that, it's amazing. Like, I recently read it. She said that she like knows someone who knows the author, and the author did this as a part of their thesis at Central St. Martin's, which is an art school here in London. She was just like so smiley and raving about it. And also I think that was just like so cute because I don't often have people come up to me in bookstores and just like want to talk about the books that you're looking at. I thought that was so sweet. So I did get it. It is very great. First of all, I love when self-published stuff has little elements like this. Look at that hand binding, so cute. You can see it on the middle page as well. I think that's beautiful. I honestly would start recommending this to people versus the subversive stitch. Very controversial, I know, to say. The subversive stitch is kind of on a similar wavelength. It's about the politics of embroidery and how there's a lot of domestic oppression and artistic expression wrapped up in embroidery, which has been for a long time considered a domestic art and one that women do mostly. And so one of the first craft politics books that I read, and one that I think comes up all the time, is this full-length book that talks about that and gives a pretty in-depth history. I still really enjoyed it. Like, I would always recommend it to people, but I feel like this kind of gets to the point a little bit quicker and a little snappier. It's also more class conscious. That's a big critique of subversive stitch, is that it's a lot about just like rich white women in the West and how embroidery was a part of their like religion and a part of their like staying at home, when this zine does a better job of talking about the fact that like not all women throughout history have had the privilege of staying at home or of having a bunch of time to embroider and having that be a part of their domestic life. So I appreciate that angle as well. It talks a lot about the concept of reclamation. A big concept in feminism is this idea of like reclaiming words like bitch or slut. Like, these are things that people have been oppressed by in the past and now are kind of reclaiming and bringing back into feminist language and using in like new subversive ways. And the author applies that concept to embroidery and questions this idea of these like domestic arts that traditionally have in some ways oppressed women. Like, can we reclaim those and make those a part of like liberatory artistic expression? She argues yes. She talks about it. And it also references a lot of sociology that I love. So it references people like Judith Butler and Bell Hooks, these people who write about sociology who don't necessarily write about craft, and brings those concepts into this, which I really appreciate because I think a lot of craft research is often like squarely within the niche of craft. And I think this does a really good job of connecting all this scholarship together and showing how craft is situated within a wider feminist movement. And it also gets into a bit about gender as performance, which I think is super interesting and not something that I have seen craft politics writing do. I feel like usually in craft politics stuff, gender is talked about in a very literal way, ways that women have been oppressed by men when it comes to what is valued and what isn't. And this, again, you know, talks about people like Judith Butler, gender's performance, and questions that idea a bit further, like what are we performing? What kind of gender are we performing and creating for ourselves when we are engaging with practices like these? I just think it is interesting. It's something that I hadn't read a lot of before, but that I appreciated being applied to my favorite thing, craft politics. Next up, reading for me. I have a few more little zines like that, but I think I'm going to move into doing The Artist's Way, which is this 12-week series by Julia Cameron that is pretty well known. It's supposed to help you kind of create a creative practice or reawaken a creative practice if you feel like disconnected from your creativity. I'm not feeling necessarily like disconnected. I feel very lucky to engage with creativity in a lot of different ways, but what I do feel like is that I've fallen a bit away from having like a personal creative practice. I do a lot of creativity that fits into like a brand, material girls. I'm around art in my day job, which is cool, but again, it's like from a more professional point of view. Sometimes I miss the creative vibes that I had like in college when I was going to the studio, and my days were just full of like thinking of artistic ideas and how to realize them, and I want to kind of get back into that vibe. Part of it is that you're also supposed to go on solo artist dates, which I would be super excited to set up. Basically just like take yourself out to try to be inspired by something. I have lots of opportunities for that in London, so I think it would be fun to come up with some cool things for that and take you along on what I find. But until then, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a good day. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you later.